Hello everyone, it's me again, Mr. Darkweb. Today I'm presenting you a story that I found on the closed Crime Talk forum in the archive for December 2022. This is the confession of a man known as Phantom, a computer science student who went from being an ordinary guy to one of America's most wanted cybercriminals. This story began with the most noble of intentions, a young computer programmer trying to save his dying mother. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of medical bills, insurance company rejections, unanswered resumes, a reality familiar to many Americans where the choice is between bankruptcy and the loss of a loved one. But what happens when desperation meets technical skill and access to the shadow internet? Phantom showed us how thin the line is between victim of circumstance and organizer of a criminal empire. In a year and a half, he went from stealing $230 from a pensioner to running an international network stealing millions of dollars from banks. Phantom's story is not just a tale of bank fraud. It is an anatomy of moral degradation in the digital age. Here you will see how modern schemes work with synthetic identities, how hackers bypass bank defenses, how criminal teams are built on the Darknet. But most importantly, you will see the price a man pays when he crosses the line between law and crime. The ending of this story is particularly frightening. Phantom got what he had fought for, money for his mother's treatment. But when she was dying, he couldn't be there for her, hiding from an international manhunt. Ironically, in saving one life, he destroyed hundreds of others, including his own. The post was published on the 27th of December 2022 at 3:42 UTC. Since then, the author has not been in touch again. Make yourself comfortable and get ready for a journey into the mind of a man who has proved, in today's world, any software student can become a millionaire. The only question is what price he is willing to pay for it. You know what the worst part of this story is? It's not that I stole millions. It's not that I ruined hundreds of people's lives. It's that if I had to choose again, I'd do the same thing. Call me Phantom. I'm in my last year of computer science at a university in Chicago. Until February 2019, I was just an ordinary student, writing code, participating in CTF competitions, dreaming of an internship at Google. My GitHub was filled with cybersecurity projects. I even wrote a couple of pen testing tools that I used at university. White hacker, as they say. I lived with my mother in a small flat on the south side. I don't remember my father. He left when I was 7. My mother worked as a nurse at Northwestern Memorial, supporting the two of us on one salary. I worked part-time jobs wherever I could, fixing neighbors' computers, making websites for local shops, freelancing on Upwork. It was a pittance, but it was enough to pay for food and school, until that day. The 21st of February 2019. Thursday. I remember every detail because it was the day my life split into before and after. I was sitting in the university library finishing up a term project on machine learning when the phone rang. "Son," Mom's voice trembled, "I need to talk to you. Come home." I knew. By the tone, by the pauses between words, I just knew it was something bad. Very bad. Breast cancer, stage 3. It was discovered accidentally during a routine checkup. The doctor said something about chemotherapy, radiation surgery. All I heard were numbers, $80,000 for treatment, minimum, no guarantees. The insurance will cover the basics, the doctor said, but additional procedures, experimental methods, that's up to you. Insurance covered $15,000, the rest is our problem. The public hospital nurse didn't have $65,000, neither did the software student. I spent the next fortnight running around like a madman. I applied for all the jobs in a row, from junior developer to technical support. The responses were the same. "Thanks for your interest, but we're looking for someone with experience." Experience. I had experience writing exploits for training purposes, experience hacking test systems, experience creating phishing pages for cybersecurity demos, but this was not the kind of experience that HR managers were interested in. Banks denied credit, student with no steady income, mother's bad credit history. GoFundMe raised $3,000 in a month, a drop in the ocean, and time went on. Every day, the doctor repeated, "The sooner we start treatment, the better the chances." The 7th of March 2019, Friday night, Mom went to bed after another course of painkillers, and I sat at the computer and stared stupidly at the screen. A clinic page with prices for treatment was open in my browser. $80,000, $80,000. It was an astronomical sum for us. And then I remembered a conversation with a classmate of mine, Mike. A month ago, he had bragged that he had earned $2,000 in a week on one project. When I asked him which one, he smiled enigmatically and said, "There are places on the internet that pay a lot more for our skills." At the time, I didn't give it much thought. Mike's words sounded different now. I downloaded Tor browser. The first time entering the Darknet was scary, not because of the technical complexity. I was well aware of how onion networks worked. It was scary to realize that I was crossing the line, that I was looking for ways to make money where there were no legal ways. But when choosing between morality and a mother's life, the choice is clear. The first sites I found dealt in drugs, weapons, forged documents. I wasn't interested in that. I was looking for something to do with technology, hacking, and I found it. Crime Talk is one of the largest forums for specialists of our profile. To register, we had to pass a technical test. The questions were serious, from the basics of cryptography to practical tasks in social engineering. I did it in 2 hours. The first thing that caught my eye was the jobs section. They were looking for programmers to write malware, social engineering specialists, and experts in bypassing bank security systems. Salaries were listed in bitcoins, but even converted into dollars, the sums were impressive. $500, $1,000 for simple tasks, $5,000, $10,000 for complex projects. You could earn more in one project than my mom made in 6 months working at the hospital. I created a profile, specified my skills: Python, JavaScript, network security, social engineering. An hour later, the first offer came in. Need a person to write a simple phishing kit, imitation of Bank of America page. Payment 0.1 BTC. Interested? 0.1 Bitcoin was worth about $400 at the time, for 2 days of work. I could write such a page with my eyes closed. I did such a thing for training demonstrations dozens of times. The cursor hovered over the reply button. Somewhere in the next room, Mom was moaning quietly in her sleep. The painkillers were getting weaker and weaker. There was less and less time left. I hit enter. What happened next changed not only my life, but also the lives of hundreds of innocent people. But that's for another time, because some stories can't be told in a hurry. And this story, it deserves to be heard to the end. The criminal world is like cold water. At first it seems unbearable, but then you get used to it and don't want to go ashore. My first customer was hiding under the nickname Euro Ghost. He ordered a phishing kit for Bank of America via encrypted chat, an exact copy of a bank page to steal data. He paid the deposit immediately. It took me 2 days to write the code. Adaptive layout, perfect design imitation, bypassing basic defenses, techniques from ethical hacking courses. Only the goal was unethical. Euroghost was satisfied. 0.1 BTC arrived on my wallet on the 12th of March. You know what I felt? Not shame, relief. For the first time in a month, I could buy my mom's medication without borrowing money. A week later, Euroghost offered a permanent job. We called via Messenger, Eastern European accent, business-like tone. Need a technician from the US, $5,000 per month plus a percentage of operations, more than my mom earned in 3 months. Their group worked all over the world, had access to personal databases, and could create synthetic identities. I had to adapt European methods to American banks. Where did the databases come from? I asked. Buying, Equifax, Experian, Target. All the leaks are not accidental. The people behind each one are the people selling access, a whole ecosystem, insiders and companies, hackers, data brokers. At the time, the personal data of 200+ million Americans was publicly available. We are not the worst, Euroghost said, just redistributing money from the banks to those who need it more. On the 20th of March, I joined the group. The level of organization was astonishing. Its own IT infrastructure, technical support, even an HR department. First assignment: to study the security systems of American banks. I spent a week analyzing Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, Citibank. I looked for vulnerabilities to exploit. The weakest link was people. All technical defenses can be bypassed if you get a bank employee to do it for you. The 27th of March, first surgery. Target, David Miller, 67, retired from Florida. Data from purchased database. Name, address, SSN, mother's maiden name. I created a copy of the Bank of America page. Euroghost sent an SMS. Suspicious activity on the account. Confirm your identity using the link. Miller entered all the data on my page. An hour later, Euroghost called the bank, introduced himself as Miller using number spoofing, named all the data correctly. The employee restored access. There was $230 in the account. We transferred it to the fake account. My share, $50. $50 for a stolen pension. That night I thought about Miller, imagined his horror at discovering the theft. But then I thought of my mom, of her pain, of banks making billions. By morning, my conscience was quiet. For 3 weeks, we tested on small targets. Students, retirees, office workers, $100 to $1,000 each. By mid-April, I made $3,000. Was able to pay for my mom's full course of treatment for the first time. He said he had received a startup grant. On the 15th of April, Euroghost wrote, "Ready for some serious work?" What do you mean? Big goals. Business accounts, investment accounts, from $10,000 to $100,000. But the risks are higher. What are the risks? Banks are looking more closely at large sums of money. FBI is more active in their investigations. We need synthetic identities, forged documents offshore. Payment? 15% of the surgery. $50,000 is your $7,500, more in one surgery than most people make in a month. We need to think about it. There's no standing still in this business. You either grow or you're out, and you don't know if it's safe. On April 18th, I wrote, "I'm in." Once you cross the line, it is almost impossible to stop. Each step seems to be a logical continuation of the previous one. But what happened next exceeded all my expectations. I will tell you about how far a man can go for love next time. Power corrupts. But digital power corrupts instantly. When you can become anyone with a click of a mouse, the line between reality and play is blurred forever. May 2019 was a watershed year. Euroghost introduced me to the architect, a mysterious type who coordinated operations around the world. He spoke only through a distorted voice, met only in encrypted chats. "Phantom is doing a great job with the little things," said Euroghost. "It's time to move on to serious projects." An architect explained the new scheme. Synthetic personalities are people who exist only on paper, but have impeccable credit histories, bank accounts, even social media profiles. Creating such a ghost takes months, but allows you to get loans worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. My job is the technical infrastructure. Anti-detect browsers that mimic a particular person's online behavior. Digital fingerprint management systems. Social media automation to create believable online activity. "We need a team," said the architect. "You will be the coordinator of the American direction. Find the executors." On the 24th of May, I posted an ad on Crime Talk, looking for programmers for a long-term project. Good pay, stable work, American specifics. The responses came in an hour. The first to respond was Red Code, a student from California, an expert in web scraping and automation. The second was Night Owl, a girl from Texas, an expert in social engineering and phishing. The third was 07, a hacker from New York, a master at bypassing bank defenses. Interviews were conducted via video chat with voice distortion. He asked technical questions, checked motivation, assessed risks. In the criminal world, you can't trust anyone, but without a team, major operations are impossible. By the end of May, I had a group of 4 people. We communicated via encrypted Telegram, met in virtual reality, used code names even among ourselves. The first major operation is a medical clinic in Denton, Texas. Night Owl found a vulnerability in their electronic medical record system. Outdated server, weak administrator passwords, no up-to-date security features. On the 7th of June, we accessed a database of 15,000 patient records. Names, addresses, national insurance numbers, insurance policies, income information, marital status, medical history. A goldmine for creating synthetic identities. Red Code wrote a script for automatic data processing. We were looking for ideal profiles. Middle-aged people with good incomes, minimal medical problems, and stable family situations. Such profiles are the easiest to clone. We chose 10 targets. They created a full digital profile for each. social media accounts, email addresses, purchase history, online activity. 07 developed an IP address rotation system to mimic the geographic movements of each person. The hardest part was creating a credit history. A synthetic identity had to exist for at least 6 months before banks would start considering loan applications. You had to show regular income, timely payments, and reasonable financial behavior. The architect provided access to a network of shell companies across the country, officially registered firms that existed only on paper but had tax records and could issue income certificates. Our synthetic personalities worked in these companies, received salaries, and paid taxes. By August, we had 5 completed profiles with credit scores above 700. Time to act. The first target is James Anderson, 34, a computer programmer from Austin. On paper, he made $85,000 a year, rented a flat, had a car loan, used credit cards regularly, a model borrower. On the 15th of August, James applied for a personal loan from Wells Fargo for $45,000. He stated the purpose was to buy a car and renovate his home. The bank approved the application in 24 hours. A week later, the money arrived in the account of a shell company in Delaware. From there into cryptocurrency, then through a network of exchangers into our wallets. My share was $6,750. In the first month, we siphoned $180,000 from 5 banks: American Express, Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Capital One. All the transactions went off without a hitch. The architect was delighted. "Phantom, you have exceeded expectations. Your team works like a Swiss watch. What's next?" "Scaling. We have $2 million worth of orders, but it's going to take more people, more synthetic personalities, more technical power." By September, my team had grown to 12 people. Programmers, designers, social engineers, money laundering specialists. We rented servers in different countries, created our own VPN network, and developed systems for automatically creating fake profiles. The money was pouring in. On a good day, I was making $10,000 to $15,000, up to $200,000 a month. More than the top managers of large corporations made. Mom was getting better. The best doctors, experimental treatments, expensive medicines, everything was available. I rented a flat for her in a good neighborhood, hired a nurse, and paid for a year-long rehabilitation program. But money didn't just change our lives, it changed me. I didn't think about the victims anymore. The people whose data we stole became abstract numbers. Banks became opponents in an intellectual game. Fraud became technical creativity. Started getting paranoid. Changed laptops every month, used only disposable phones, slept in different places, even communicated with the team through multiple proxies and encryption. In October, Euroghost warned, "Phantom, you're becoming too conspicuous." The FBI has a unit that specializes in our type of fraud. They've already linked several operations. How is that possible? Your team is too big. Some people talk too much, some leave digital footprints. The bigger the operation, the greater the risk of exposure. He was right. On the 23rd of October, 07 sent an alarming message. "My computer has been scanned. Someone may be watching." A day later, Redcode reported that his neighbors were asking strange questions about his work. The architect has ordered all operations suspended. The team is to be disbanded. Digital traces to be destroyed. "Is it temporary?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe it's time for a change of major. Or geography." On the 25th of October, I sent a last message to my team. "The project is closed. Thank you all for your work. Take care." That night, I sat in my rented flat in Detroit, looked at my laptop screen, and realized the game was over. In 6 months, we had stolen almost $3 million. I made more money than most people don't see in a lifetime. But the price was too high. And the worst part is, I wanted to keep going. But that's the last part. About what happens when you realize that there is no turning back. You know what the worst part of this story is? It's not that I could have been caught, it's that I couldn't stop. November 2019 was the end. The team disbanded, operations frozen, but paranoia ate from the inside out. Changed hotels every other day, bought new laptops, used cash only. Every passerby could be an agent, every camera a trap. On the 14th of November, the worst happened. Night Owl disappeared. The last message came on the 13th at 23:47. "I think I'm in trouble. If anything, I don't know anyone." Since then, silence. 3 days later, Red Code sent a link to a news bulletin from Los Angeles. Young woman arrested on suspicion of cyber fraud. The photo was blurry and no name was given, but the age matched. My heart was pounding like crazy. If they took her, they could have taken the others. And if anyone talked. I wiped out every last trace of him in 24 hours. Burned laptops, dumped phones, closed bank accounts. Bitcoins transferred to cold wallets with no connection to my identity. Euroghost got in touch on the 18th of November. The situation is critical. They may have our correspondence. I recommend to change location immediately. Where to? Eastern Europe, South America, Southeast Asia. The main thing is where there are no extradition treaties. And your mom? Long pause. Phantom, you understand, it's either freedom or family. You can't have it both ways. That night I sat in a cheap motel outside Cleveland and thought about the choice. Running away meant leaving my mother alone with her illness. Staying would risk 20 years in prison. On the 20th of November, I bought a ticket to Mexico City, in cash, using forged documents. The bag contained $50,000 in cash and a thumb drive with access to 200 bitcoins. About $2 million. At the airport, I wrote to my mom. Urgent business trip, 2 months. The money is in your account. The treatment is paid for a year in advance. Love you. She replied 5 minutes later, take care of yourself, son. I'm proud of you. If she knew. In Mexico, everything turned out to be easier than expected. $10,000 bought new documents, $20,000 bought a visa to Panama. The architect got in touch with local colleagues. He rented a house in the suburbs of Panama City. Officially, he was an investor from the USA living on income from securities. But the money didn't bring happiness. Every night he woke up in a sweat. I dreamt of victims, pensioners, students, families. I dreamt of my mother dying alone in the hospital, tried to quit. I bought a legitimate IT company that made websites for local firms, hired programmers and accountant, played the part of the honest entrepreneur. But the temptation was stronger. In March 2020, as the world descended into the chaos of a pandemic, I snapped. Banks loosened checks, people borrowed en masse, governments handed out subsidies. Perfect timing for a comeback. I created a new team. Local hackers, European contacts, American insiders. In 6 months, they made $5 million. My share was $1.2 million. But payback was coming. July 2021. Call from Euroghost. Phantom, we have a big problem. What's wrong? Night Owl has spoken. The deal with the prosecutor's office. She ratted out everyone she knew. The world collapsed in 1 second. What did she know about me? Enough. Names, schemes, amounts. They've already frozen some of your old accounts. How much time? Maybe a month, maybe a week. International warrants already being prepared. I shut the company down in 3 days. Sold my house, my car, all my possessions. Moved assets into anonymous cryptocurrency wallets. Bought a new identity in Southeast Asia. I have been living as a ghost for the last 2 years. I change countries every 3-4 months. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines. Always cash, always new documents, always the same question. Will they find me today? On the 12th of January 2022, my mother died. Found out from an obituary in the local paper. The cancer had returned, metastasized, 2 months of fighting. She was alone. I couldn't even fly to the funeral. The money that was supposed to save her was the reason I couldn't be around for the last few days. That's the irony. Now I have about $8 million in various assets. Enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. But every dollar is soaked in the blood of innocent people. Every note is someone's life destroyed. The architect still gets in touch every 6 months. Phantom, there's an interesting project. I need your expertise. He says the sums are astronomical, but I don't answer anymore. Not out of remorse, just tired of running. Tired of being nothing. Tired of waking up thinking that this is the last day of freedom. I am writing this story in an internet cafe in Ho Chi Minh City. Tomorrow I fly to Jakarta. The day after tomorrow I fly even further away. This will continue until they find me or I die of a heart attack in another rented flat. My biggest mistake, I thought I was in control, that I could go into the underworld, take what I needed, and come out. But the criminal world operates on a get-in, get-out basis. Every night I ask myself, would I have pressed enter then if I had known the price? The honest answer is, I don't know. For my mom's sake, maybe yes. What about you? If your loved one was dying, and the only way to save them lay on the other side of the law, what would you do? Would you stop at the first theft, or would you take it a step further? I know what I did, and I pay the price of that knowledge every day. Phantom's story ended as vaguely as it began, with an unanswered question. In a matter of days, his post garnered hundreds of comments from Crime Talk users. Some shared similar stories of financial desperation. Others argued about the moral boundaries of cybercrime, and still others analyzed the technical details of the schemes. But Phantom himself was never seen on the forum again. The last time he came in 5 days after the publication, answered a few comments in a one-syllable manner, and disappeared. Maybe he found peace in his confession, or maybe he realized that some questions are better left unanswered. What struck me about this story was not the technical details. Most of the methods described are well known in the cybersecurity field. I was struck by the transformation of a man who started with a desire to help a loved one and ended up living a life of constant escape. And the most frightening thing is that he is not fully repentant, only methodically analyzing the cost of his decisions. Phantom posed questions to which there are no easy answers. Where is the line between necessity and greed? Does a noble goal justify criminal means if the victims remain abstract figures? And most importantly, is it possible to stop when crime becomes the only familiar world? History shows how thin the line is between the victim of the system and its exploiter. American medicine ruins families with astronomical bills, banks profit from people's misfortunes, and students are unemployed because of experience requirements. In such a system, crime may seem like the only way out. But the choice is always up to the individual. Phantom could have stopped after the first $3,000 enough for mom's treatment. Could have walked away after successful surgeries in May 2019. Could have chosen not to return to crime in Panama. Each time he chose to continue. Think about this the next time you are confronted with the injustice of the system. What price are you willing to pay for justice? And where is the line where you stop being a victim and become part of the problem? As always, yours, Mr. Dark Web. Have a good evening, and see you again in the dark corners of the web we explore together.